Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Expert to Authority show. I'm your host, and my name is Simone Vincenzi, and this is the show for coaches, speakers, and trainers who want to grow their businesses while making an impact in the world. And today we have a fascinating topic. In fact, we are going to talk about the science behind impactful communication. We are always communicating, in particular in our work, whether you're in business, if you're a presenter, and if you're selling something, if you're having a meeting, you're always communicating. And communication is something that is not, it doesn't need to be an afterthought. Actually, it's one of our biggest priorities. And that's why I'm excited about having this conversation today. To introduce my guest, starting off in the 80s as a runner at a video production company in Soho, in London, working on Dire Straits, and George Michael One videos. He realized that he could never master the art of making good coffee on film shoots. So he upped his skills and went to work at the BBC as an assistant film editor. And here began his love of all things voice. 30 years later, having been an audio producer and studio director, he's now an executive voice coach based in Hong Kong. Through the company that he founded, All Voice Talent Limited, David has trained over thousands of people globally across a huge range of industry, from managing partners, lawyers, and CEO to business executives and TEDx speakers. His one-to-one coaching session, workshop, and online video courses focus on transforming voices, helping good speakers become great speakers. His workshop also are CPD accredited by the Societies of Hong Kong, Singapore, NSW Australia, and the Legal Affairs Department of the Government of Dubai. And with this, welcome to the show, David Pope. David, welcome.
Thank you so much, Simone. Thank you. Really lovely to be here.
Let's talk voice. Why is voice so important? Because I think sometimes a lot of people stumble into, I have to deliver a presentation or I'm going to
Mhm.
speak, and they don't really understand the impact of their voice. So why is voice so important?
Well, I think the most important point about this is that voice is absolutely linked to self-confidence. So, with in your very kind introduction, you mentioned, the many people that I've worked with across many industries, and the fundamental is around how when we use our voice, it connects to other people. So, if we understand how to use our voice effectively, then basically we can get things done. We get noticed. We can win pitches. We can ace presentations, confidently conduct meetings, get noticed by maybe senior management, ultimately get promoted. So really voice and how you sound is fundamental to a professional life. But of course, we're talking also personally as well, how you communicate with friends, family, etc., etc. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm curious, is there, because I think that you've been in the communication field for a long time,
long time,
and
yeah.
I'm curious if what you have learned many years ago, 20, 30 years ago about voice are still the same things that are relevant now, or if because the world is changed, also the use of voice have changed. What are your insights on that?
In terms of, I mean, many years ago, because as you mentioned, I started off in the editing suites at the BBC. So for me, understanding how voice worked, that was fundamental. Now, obviously, things have changed a little bit, but not a lot, because ultimately we're still communicating. But I think in those old days from 30 years ago, people weren't using social media as much. So, well, sorry, not as much, not at all. I mean, when I started out, there was nothing like YouTube, Instagram, all of the reels, all of the self promotion. So, that is where voice is absolutely critical. It's about how we come across because so much, you're an entrepreneur, I'm an entrepreneur. It's about how our brand is perceived as well, how we come across, very important. And there's a lot of pressure, I think, nowadays, because also the online environment. Again, when I started out, we didn't have Zoom, Teams, WebEx, all of this. So it was very much the face to face. And so nowadays we've got online, we've got in person. So I think there's a lot of pressure on people not only to perform well in their jobs, but actually to sound good while we're doing it. Because if we don't sound good, then potentially we maybe miss opportunities. But here's the good thing, you don't actually have to make drastic changes. And this is what I've seen in my line of work, having coached so many people. Even small changes can actually have a big benefit. So, for example, if you're somebody that maybe doesn't speak with volume, then increasing your volume a little bit, not a lot, we just have to be authentic as well. Just increasing your volume will actually allow you to be heard, listened to, and ultimately, if you're trying to get a buy in from somebody, respected. So,
There's
yeah,
small changes. You know what? This
just
is
the small.
reminding me. This is reminding me of um, the reason why I changed university.
Ah,
I was
okay.
at, I was at 18 at the time, and I was studying history of art in Italy, and that was my first attempt at university. Didn't go that. The first one didn't go that well. The second one went even worse, so I decided to just move and start my own stuff. But the first attempt, that's the reason why got me to change university is because I had a professor that was doing a class at 8 o'clock in the morning, and it was the most monotone voice that I've ever heard in my entire life. So I'm there going to class, trying to keep my eyes open. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. We start early. And then you go into
Mm,
this class, very dark because he liked things
mm.
very dark with his monotone voice. I was off to sleep. So let's talk about those changes that maybe even my professor could have made there or other
Gosh.
people can make. What kind of small changes are you talking about?
Right. So it's interesting. You talked about monotone. I mean, the thing is, we all make judgments about people based on the sound of the voice. And so, for example, people will email me and they say, "Look, David, I want you to help me work on my voice because I sound boring." I mean, that's a judgment, right? So the idea of being monotone, people will say to me, "I sound boring." So in other words, it means that they're not speaking with intonation. So these are the little tweaks that we need to do. And again, coming back to these small changes. So there are 5 elements to vocal variety. So we've got intonation, as you mentioned. There's word stress, there's volume, as I mentioned before, there's pacing, and there's also pausing. And this is, if you can master all of these, but it's not just spending hours and hours and hours trying to master it so you're an absolute perfectionist, okay? But if you can just get little tweaks, then you're going to be able to iron out some of these things. So, this, but back to your lecturer. I mean, if he'd actually started, well, first of all, if he put the lights on a little bit more, I think that's very unfair. Maybe a
That would have
later
helped.
lesson, and also just having more intonation in the voice. That is how you engage people. And if you remember, I talked about online environments. We have to work much, much harder in the online environments. So if you're having global meetings, you're meeting regionally, because as you mentioned, I live in Hong Kong. A lot of the people that I work with, so for example, I was running a webinar this morning and everybody was in Tokyo, but they're constantly having meetings all around the APAC region, all the way through to the Middle East. They are having to engage people in this very small space that we're both on now. So having these little tweaks really, really important. If you want to win, if you want to engage, if you want to inspire, you've got to be conscious of vocal variety. Yeah.
What is one thing that can improve a vocal variety? Like if someone is watching right now or is listening, they say, I would love to improve my vocal variety at the starting point. What is something that they can do to get started?
Okay, here's the thing. The one thing to take away from this session, 2 words: record yourself. This is what I do. I mean, basically, I've built a business on recording people, playing back their voices and analyzing. We all hate the sound of our own voices. Most people that I work with, when I run a workshop and say, okay, everybody, put your hand up if you like the sound of your own voice. And usually, I would say, yeah, probably usually 99% of people, the hands stay down. The thing is, if we get to understand our vocal nuances, so back to the vocal variety, if we've got something high stakes coming up, if it's a pitch, a presentation, an interview, maybe you're speaking at a conference, if you're just rehearsing, if you record yourself and play it back, you're going to pick up on all of these vocal nuances. And if you do it in the safety of your office, in your bedroom, wherever, you're going to pick up and you're going to be able to make these changes. Now, some of the things that come out from that is you're speaking too fast, maybe the pitch of your voice is a little bit too high. So this is we can work on the pitch. The fillers which get in the way, the ers, the ums, the you knows, you likes, they're a very natural form of discourse, but if we're trying to have an impact, let's say we're opening speaker at something and we are MC and we're on the stage and we start speaking and we're going, you're not going to win the audience that way. Record yourself, play it back, and you will get used to your voice. And the more you do that, the more confident you'll become. So that's absolutely what I would say. Record yourself.
Record yourself. I remember I did this many years ago because I started working as a professional speaker I mean, not as a professional. I started working in the speaking industry when I was 23.
Right.
And I feel very lucky that I started that early. And it was very difficult. It was very tough because I was in the UK. I've been in the UK only for, at that time, for 4 years.
Mm,
And when I moved from Italy to the UK, English not being my first language, it was difficult, in particular, trying to deliver a presentation. At the
mm,
beginning, I
mm.
was just trying. I wasn't even delivering one, if I gotta be honest. I was just trying, putting myself on there, delivering my presentation, doing the best I could. And I remember for the first year, every workshop that I would deliver, every interview, I would have people raising their hand and then saying, "Can you repeat, please? I
Mm,
don't understand."
mm, mm, mm.
Now, I gotta say, I got a bit of a tough skin, which means I take this. I'm always the kind of person that take it as a feedback. So, okay, how can I improve? What can I change? What can I do
Yeah.
different? But what if someone is in a situation where they've been given feedback that they don't sound interesting, that they sound boring, that ultimately they lost confidence in their own voice? Now, my assumption is that re-listening back to my own voice, if I don't have a thick skin, it can crush my confidence even more.
Hmm.
What would you say for to someone who is in that scenario, in that situation?
Okay, so the writer William Faulkner, he once said, "Be scared. You can't help that, but don't be afraid." Now, I mean, hearing your story, coming from Italy, you're speaking in a second language. You've got the guts to do that, right? That shows confidence. That shows real strength. So, working where I do in Asia, because I'm working across many, many different languages, the key to this would be articulation. It's the clarity in speaking. So, yes, people might say, "I don't understand what you're saying." So, some people will come to me and they say, "David, I want you to change my accent." And I will never change people's accents because it's part of who you are, right? So where I'm coming from the idea of intelligibility. So the question is, can you be understood? So thinking about specific words. So if you're working in the finance industry, if you're in the medical industry, the tech, you've got specific language which is pertinent to your business. Okay, you've got legalese, you've got finance, startup, all of this sort of language. You do have to, if you're going to put yourself out there as a speaker, or even if you are working for a company which, let's say it is multinational, and I feel very blessed because in many ways, English is the sort of language of business. So everybody has to speak in my first language. But I will say, I won't change the accent, but what I will do is I will work on your intelligibility. So if people are being continuously told that they can't understand them, it might be particularly around. So, for example, in Japan, we have the L and the N and the R issues. In China, other ones. Over in Europe, the TH, the th that we don't have.
Oh my
So
God, that was so difficult.
it's a hard one, right? But coming back to what I was saying about recording yourself, you see, if you actually get almost like a list of problematic words, and this is what I do when I'm working with people, but we're talking like also, C-suite level that I'm working with, managing partners of law firms. They've got some of these inherent problems that have come, they've never really had feedback. So I come in and I'm saying, okay, here's this word, say it like this. And then again, I'm recording it for them, I model it for them. They then practice, they then say yes to the next speaking event, and they might get somebody might put their hand up again. Sorry, I don't understand. But bit by bit by bit, the confidence grows. You've really, as I said, that William Faulkner quote, you mustn't be scared. You really have to throw yourself into it because we're all scared. We all get nervous in big, high stakes situations. Name me one person that doesn't get nervous, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And the more, and you said the right word, high stake.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
I remember I did my TEDx talk when I was 27. Uh,
Wow. Amazing. Well done. God,
and at that time, though, I started speaking at least doing one event a week since I was 23.
fantastic.
So I built miles. We're
Yeah.
talking about
Yeah.
volume of talks because I knew this is what I wanted to do. I knew I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to be on stage. I knew I needed to get better. And I arrived at a point where after, 4 or 5 years of delivering talks, 4 years of delivering talks at least once a week, I became quite comfortable and confident.
Right.
I actually,
Confident. That's the key. Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
confident.
Yeah.
But the moment I went on the TEDx stage, because what TEDx as a brand or what TEDx as a milestone meant to me,
Right.
I was one of the most nerve-wracking
Mm-hmm.
situations that I've ever had. And it was a small audience. There
Mm-hmm.
were only probably like 100, 150 people. So it wasn't huge. I've already done at that point events with 1,000, 2,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it was not about the size of the audience, but it was about the meaning of the moment. And I'm curious, when you're working with your clients in high-stake situations,
Mm.
sometimes our brain has a bit of a switch, like it switches off. We go into either survival mode or everything that we have prepared for and learned and practiced kind of
Goes out the window.
goes
Yeah.
out the window, and you are there just trying to do your best and hanging on. When you work with your clients, how do you suggest them to prepare in those kind of situations?
Right. So what I do is when I'm working with people, like let's say they're speaking at a global conference or a town hall, and I work with TEDx speakers as well. So I take them through a process that the first one, and again, it comes back to the recording. So a few weeks before the event, I'm working with them to record the voice because what will happen is people get quite close and quite possessive on their material. And so, what I will do is by getting them to record it, playing it back with me, and we analyze it, I'm getting them to break it down just a little bit, just for the simple things that will they might make them trip up. So, for example, something as simple as contractions. So, good afternoon, everybody. I am David Pope. It is very nice to be here today, right? So, I get them to contract. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm David Pope, and it's great to be here today. So, I get them to speak in a way which is very natural for them. When it comes to the actual event itself, so you mentioned like the TED thing, right? And yes, and suddenly the cortisol is raging, the adrenaline. Adrenaline is good, by the way. If you're not feeling that, I think there's something quite wrong with you. So the adrenaline is good, but the issue is when it goes too far. And that's when, the knees start shaking, you start sweating, the throat goes dry, and you get extremely nervous. So, what I do is I take people through a process, and these are exercises which is about grounding you. It comes back to the breath because a lot of the work that I do is around the breath. It's grounding yourself with the diaphragmatic breath. I give people these exercises. So for just the calm breathing. Now, this is also based on the neuroscience because, nowadays they understand through neuroscience what Buddhist teachers, monks, and practitioners have been saying for centuries. It's that relationship between the breath, the mind, and the body. So it's about calming the reptile brain, and this is the thing you talked about. The oh my goodness, I'm about to step onto a TED Talk stage. Okay, it's calming the amygdala, which is going into overdrive. So it's about the breathing, the calming, and then I take them through some visualization exercises. And it pretty much works every time because, as I said, adrenaline is good, but if you go too far, it can actually make it bad. And then when you go up on stage, your mind goes blank. But if you've done that prep, if you're calm and ready, it doesn't matter. Yeah.
How does this breathing exercise work? Like for everyone that is right now watching and listening, and maybe they have an important presentation to prepare for. Right now, maybe the presentation is coming in the next few days, so they cannot do all the work on the
Sure.
other things, on the intonations, on the word
Yeah.
stress, on the volume, on the pacing, on the posing that you mentioned. But maybe they can actually say, okay, I can get a bit calmer. How does this breath work?
Right. Okay. So it's about the diaphragmatic breath. So we call it diaphragmatic breathing, belly breathing, abdominal breathing. If anybody out there does yoga, it's pranayama. So they talk about, this phrase of people catching their breath right up here. So everything is up here when we get nervous. And
Mm.
so we've got three voices. We've got the head voice. So think about, I don't know, people singing falsetto. And you've got the middle voice, which is the voice that we're speaking in now. And then we've got the diaphragmatic voice, which is that chest voice. And that is the voice that anchors us and grounds us. So basically, what we're trying to do is when I'm working with people, I get them to stand up, but you can also do it sitting down as well. You're opening up the chest and effectively, what you're doing is you just close your eyes and you imagine that, well, you don't imagine, it's happening. Your belly, you try and imagine your breath going down into your belly. The reason I'm saying imagine, so some people they find it quite difficult. It's a bit counterintuitive because when babies are born, they breathe like this naturally. But as we get older, we switch. Okay.
Then we start breathing from
Correct, from here.
like
So the chest, yes,
instead of
all
going
up
down.
here. The
Mm.
shallow breathing. This is shallow breathing. So what we're doing is when we breathe, we focus so the breath goes down into the stomach. When the breath goes into the stomach comes out like a balloon. And so we're breathing in, breathing out, just very, very slowly. And if you're just on your own, you go off to a quiet place, these conferences, everybody's rushing around, busy, busy, busy. Find a corner, turn away from where everybody is, like you're facing a wall or the curtain or whatever, and just do that diaphragmatic breathing in and out, in and out. And this comes back to the neuroscience. This calms the cortisol, it calms the adrenaline, the testosterone is raging, it calms everything. And it's been very good. It's tried and tested. It's like box breathing as well. It's another exercise. It lowers your heart rate and lowers your blood pressure. So breathing is the absolute foundation of everything. The calming, the collecting yourself, getting ready to present, and then, of course, with a good breath, having a strong, dynamic, and engaging voice. So it's kind of a win-win-win, really.
It is. For people that are not aware of box breathing, can you just say what it is? So then, because they heard box breathing, some people might be aware, some people might not be.
Okay, of course. Yeah. So box breathing, literally, it is imagining a box. Okay. So what you do is you breathe in for the count of four, you pause for four, as in you hold your breath for four, You release for 4, you hold for 4. And you do it just that in a box. So it's just 4, 4, 4, 4. Now, some people, as in deeper breathing, you can actually go up to about 6 or 8, but I'd say start with 4, slow and steady. Because when everything's raging, just calming down, 4, 4, 4, 4. Just keep it going like that, and I guarantee it will calm you.
So everyone who's watching or listening, you have a presentation, you're feeling nervous, there's something important coming up, ground yourself. I think, David, you mentioned something really important here. Uh, is the creating that space before you go on stage and deliver, or if it's a meeting, before you deliver that meeting. Because often the
Mm.
nerves can come by jumping from one thing to the other. So now you're taking that nervous energy with you. You're already
Mm.
nervous because of the meeting, of the important presentation you need to deliver, and then you go live, or you press record if it is a call, or you are on that stage, and having that moment where you can ground yourself, you can calm yourself,
Yes.
then you have less risk of going back into what you are used to do and more into what you know you can do.
Totally, totally. I mean, it's just that moment before. And what I do when I'm working with people, I will actually take their notes away from them about 5 minutes before they're about to step onto the stage. Because you get that last minute panic where people start looking at the notes. If you've done the groundwork, if you've rehearsed it, if you've got your bullet points, if you know your transitions, then everything will flow. People think that doing that last minute cram, 3 minutes before, it just doesn't work because everything else is going on. You've got the people at the conference, right? You've got 3 minutes, you've got 3 minutes. So, right? Just having that space, because if you've done the groundwork, I can guarantee that you're going to be able to do a very, very good job. Hmm.
Then you trust yourself. It reminded me,
Totally.
it reminded me exactly what happened during my TEDx talk. It was exactly that. I found myself starting panicking before getting on stage. I was sweating like a pig. I was
Yeah.
disgusting. He said, "Okay, Simone, you just gotta go around right now." I took myself out of the room. I know I had 15 minutes before it was my turn. Calm myself down, went on stage, and now as a I studied Latin, so I say in Romans, I think it was Julius Caesar, alea iacta est, which then the translation means what is done is done. What is done is done, alea iacta est. You cannot really change
Wonderful.
it.
Yeah.
And then you go and trust yourself and trust your work, because that's what you need when you are delivering
Yes.
at a
And I
whiteboard.
think also to your point as well, the key thing here is authenticity. Because the thing is, people go out onto, let's say, a large stage, and everybody has got your back. So it doesn't matter if you make a mistake. I've attended big speeches, big events where somebody has made a mistake, and it's obvious they've sort of learnt it verbatim, and they just made a joke, or they said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I've lost my place," or "Oh, this is the wrong PowerPoint slide that went up." It's fine. It's absolutely fine. It's about authenticity. I think another problem is that people are a little bit over rehearsed, and then it becomes a little bit formulaic, a little bit robotic. So, that is a great thing that you're saying, just that motto, what's done is done. And it's fine if you make a mistake, you make a mistake. I've made mistakes, but I just kind of laugh about it. You just get them on side.
Get them on your side. I
Absolutely.
love to build on the conversation and the topic of authenticity here,
Mm.
because someone could argue as well that doing all this work is changing how you communicate. So is that moving away from authenticity and trying to be someone that, quote unquote, you are not? What's your take on this?
Yes. Okay. Good point. So, coming back to, we talked about vocal variety. If your authentic voice is, so you talked about your lecturer, if his authentic voice is just incredibly monotone, and he's losing students because they're just not interested, is it an argument for him to carry on being like that? His job is to educate, his job is to inform. We as communicators, we need to ask ourselves, what is our principal role as a communicator? When you get to the C-suite, and because I work a lot with C-suite, they talk about this charisma. So I say to people, what are your aspirations? Now, what do you want to get out of working with me? And they say, oh, David, I want to have charisma. Well, again, there's an argument about charisma. Some people are born with it, but some people can aspire to have it. But the bottom line is, if you are leading teams, then you have to be a strong communicator. So if your authentic voice is that you're very, very quiet, you have a very monotonous delivery, maybe your pitch is very, very high, because again, we've got this relationship between the voice pitch and authority. So if you've got these issues, and I see them very much as issues which can be looked at and built on, if you've got these, and that is your authentic voice, the bottom line is you might lose the respect of the team, you might not get promoted, you might not get the pitch or the investor funding that you're trying to get. So there is a balance, being authentic, but at the same time, you need to work on your voice as well. So it is a fine balance.
Yeah. It's
Mm.
like what I'm hearing you saying is that not change who you are, but communicate in a way that people can understand you better.
Well, I also you see a lot of people, they get so focused on themselves, and what I will say to them, actually, you're being very selfish. This is not about you. You need to think about your audience. So you need to put yourself in the audience position. Would they be interested in listening to a delivery like that? So coming back to the point I was talking about, specific language pertinent to your industry. If you're delivering in a way that is maybe difficult to understand, then okay, that might be authentic, but you've got to work on it because you've got to be understood. Mm,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm 100% with you. One of the
mm.
biggest change, I think the biggest change, I'm looking at the list of that you mentioned, intonation, word stress,
Yeah,
volume, pacing, and posing. Think for me, my biggest challenges that I always need to be aware of is the word stress, because there are
word
some
stress.
words like that. There are some words that in Italian we would just say in a complete different way, and there is always that. Oh, did I say that in the right way or not? But then I've learned with time to get people on my side
Sure,
and say,
sure.
is that how it's pronounced? And then they will correct me live on stage. They love doing that, and
Wonderful. Yeah,
that creates that connection with the audience.
absolutely, absolutely. That is the connection. Yeah. I
And
mean, word stress, they call it the prosody of speech, word stress. So this is the emotion as well, the way that you stress particular words. You get people's you understand where they're coming from emotionally. And but also for me, I mean, if I was watching you on stage and you said a word, that the stress was wrong, it wouldn't matter because understanding the Italian, the English, it doesn't matter, right? Because I can still understand what you're saying. But as you say, owning up to that, showing vulnerability, it's fine. And what it does is it builds that charisma, it builds that connection. And that is what's being a good communicator. Not the
yeah,
over rehearsed way of delivering. You become very wooden as a speaker. And people want to speak to people and listen to people the way that they are. This is about that storytelling. We're all connected to each other. We love stories. So vulnerability, joy, humor, all of these things, right?
they're part of it. They're part of it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like for
Absolutely.
me, one of the biggest ones I had to work on was the word stress and the pace.
Pacing. Ooh, yeah.
Pacing. I was speaking so fast. That was one of the biggest reasons why people could not understand me.
Yeah.
And it has been a conscious effort before going on stage, reminding myself, okay, Simone, slow down,
Yeah.
slow down. For this talk, I'm only focusing on slowing down, and that's it. I'm curious from your point of view.
Mm,
This is my last question before we wrap up. What has
sure.
been, if you think about the clients that you've worked with, what has been the biggest transformation that you have witnessed in someone? Someone that came to you that you saw that and you say, "Phew, a lot of work to do here." But they were committed to the process. They followed it, and then there was a transformation that you were proud of your work and also proud of them on how they have transformed. Does any story comes to mind?
Wow. To be honest, there are so many like that, and it's just wonderful. This is why I love what I do. I love the transformation. I think one particular person that I was working with, they were middle management. They were working for a financial organization and middle management. And the learning and development, talent development team, they came to me and said, look, we recognize that this person, that they have got something, but we need you to work on them because we want to get them to the next level. And so they came to me. So I've developed, it's called the Voice Intensive Program. So I've developed this very systematic program. My whole methodology is test, teach, test. So what I'm constantly doing is I'm creating benchmarks for them. They're doing the work, Simone. Okay, they're getting better and better and better. This comes back to the recording. So this particular person, the vocal variety was very suspect, lots of things going on. They were being earmarked to be leading teams. So this person, what I was trying to do, you mentioned the pacing and the pausing. This is all part of gravitas, having a gravitas delivery. So it's this mix of authority in the voice and also having this energy as well. So I work with them and then we took a break. 6 months later, they had something coming up, which was high stakes. I worked with them on that. And then slowly, 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 I can now say that this person, they went from management to C-suite to they now are a partner in this global financial institution. And it's wonderful. So for me, there are people that I've worked with on these journeys. And yeah, and I just love it. And what they do is because with the skills that they've learned, they're starting to pass it down. So for me, it's very much about paying it forward as well.
Yeah, you can see the ripple effect.
Oh,
Yeah.
totally. Absolutely, totally. Yes. And they get it now. They understand. It's like, oh, yes, I was. Yeah, okay. Now, they listen to their first recording like 2 or 3 years ago. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah,
And then now they're on global stages,
their
so
eyes have been opened. Their eyes have been
absolutely.
open and they cannot look back anymore.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
David, this has been a great interview. I'm sure that our viewers or listeners will love to keep in touch. First of all, is there any resource that you might have for people that they can see? And also, where is the best way to find you and your content and engage with you?
Sure. Okay. Well, firstly, I'm very active on LinkedIn. So if you want to find me on LinkedIn, I'm David Pope and I'm voice coach. And there's only one David Pope voice coach in Hong Kong. So you'll find me very easily. And if you do connect to me, just say that you heard me on Simone's show. And also, if you go across to my website, which is allvoicetalent.com, and there is a free sheet that I give people. This is a top tips sheet. And this has really come about from all of these years that I've spent working with people recording their voices. There are 14 top tips. And if you are preparing for a high stakes event, that piece of paper is amazing. And I say that myself because it has come from working with so many people. So, yeah, go across to my website, allvoicetalent.com.
Allvoicetalent.com. That's the website. Both the website and David's LinkedIn URL are going to be are in the show notes. So you can scroll down right now or check in the description and connect with David right now. Any final message, David, that you would like to share to wrap up this interview?
All I would say is if that you are somebody that knows that you have maybe a little bit of fear, step through that fear, because once you start speaking in front of one person, two people, groups of people, what will happen is your audience is going to start responding positively. You'll pick up on that energy. You'll then speak with more confidence, and your audience will pick up on that energy as well. It's very much a virtuous circle. So don't have that fear. Just step right in, do it. I've seen this happen in so many people. So I
Yeah.
wish you all good luck on your journey.
Step right in and do it. Thank
Step
you,
right in and
David.
do it.
Thank you, David. This has been an absolutely incredible interview. I really appreciate you. I really appreciate your time. For anyone who has been watching, if you're watching or listening still right now, make sure you subscribe to the show if you haven't subscribed yet. And also let us know, leave us a review. Let us know what you think about the show. 5 star, please. It's good for the guests. It's good for the show. It's good for my ego. It's good for everyone. So until
Wonderful.
until next time, remember that together we grow exponentially. Ciao.